I am so excited because I have the writers and producers of the last of the Red Hot Mamas that I saw last week at Bucks County Playhouse. Susan and Lloyd Ecker, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. Hi, Quinn. Thanks for having us.
I am so thrilled you're here. I can't believe it. And you just wrapped up
Yeah.
Yes.
last night, right?
We're still sort
Sunday
of in a
night.
coma.
Right.
So you're just flying high.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
wonderful. It was a wonderful
crazy.
experience.
How
It
many
was-
weeks were you at Bucks
So
County?
we had a 5-week run.
You must be still flying high.
Yeah. Oh, well, every show, without fail, was a standing ovation.
I want to show the audience your sizzle reel because they need to be in on the fun.
There'll come a time, now don't forget it. There'll come a time when you'll regret it. Someday, when you grow lonely, your heart will break like mine and you want me only. But don't deny it, can't get away from it. Get away from it. Why Sunday's just like Monday. Can't get away from it. Get away from it. Even good old country preachers are engaging tango teachers. Can't get away from it. Get away from it. You can't get away from it.
You refuse me, honey, you'll lose me, then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm yours. Hello, 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 hello.
That is so wonderful. You have everything. Tap dancing and
It was, everybody walked out of that theater smiling, singing, laughing, and everything we heard, like a fly on the wall, we would listen. That was so much fun. I haven't seen tapping like that in years, and everybody just loved it.
I had no idea that there was a correlation between Sophie Tucker and Bojangles.
Yep.
Yes, we found 400 scrapbooks of Sophie Tucker in the New York Public Library in
goodness.
2006. And we started reading them, and right off the top, we found this relationship between this woman named Molly Elkins, who was a former black Harlem headliner on the black circuit of that time, and also Bojangles was another friend that she ran into.
Wow.
And the three of them teamed up and decided to get into a vaudeville,
On the circuit.
On the circuit,
Right.
and they were all not allowed because they were not either look right or were the right color or the right weight,
Right
or
size,
the
body
right.
shape. So
I love the themes of diversity and inclusion in this. I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all.
I think a lot of young women especially can relate to that issue of body image and body size. And Sophie embraced it. You know, people would try to make fun of her, but she embraced the fact that she was a woman of size. She said, I'm fat and there's more of me to love. And that was so eye-opening for women in the audience.
Yes,
You know?
I know she has a lot of double entendre and blue humor, but I like the scene, you know, where she really embraces her sensuality and her sexuality, and I thought it was so beautifully portrayed because it gives so many people the, you know, the permission to say, you know what, I'm sexy, or I like sex, and I'm hungry for it, and I shouldn't be, you know, ashamed of it.
Right, exactly.
And in 1910, she was the first woman to say, you know what, I'm going to speak about this on stage out loud for the first time.
And how were people responding when they?
The women in the audience, we saw letters in the scrapbooks, and the women in the audience said, thank you for allowing me to stand up to my husband. You know, you gave me the courage to stand up for myself in my marriage. It was an eye-opener for us to see that she was really ahead of her time.
And she also dressed to the nines. Even in the beginning, she would rent stuff because she couldn't afford
Yeah.
it. So the women would come to the shows eventually just to see what she was wearing. And then as it went further in the 20s, she was the girl on the front of every color of this, whatever Cosmo was those years.
Right.
She was on all the fashion magazine. Her hair was the thing. Her
Wow.
dressing was the thing. She was Madonna of those years.
I want to be like Sophie Tucker.
Oh, she was great, and we could tell what decade we were in because the hair would change from decade to decade.
Right.
And it was always with a feather or a boa or something in it. But
Right.
she was
A trendsetter.
a trendsetter, and if she couldn't afford dinner, that was okay as long as she was dressed immaculately on stage, and that's what was important to her, and that's how she related to the female audience. And at that time, women were not. This was very early on. Women came to the theater. They weren't coming to the theater before this era. So
Interesting.
here's a whole new audience, and so she embraced them. And of course, the theater managers loved her because she brought in.
I love that she knew all those people and had their addresses and ate their gefilte fish or,
Right.
or their whatever, you know.
We made a movie, a documentary back in 2014 about Sophie. It's called The Outrageous Sophie Tucker.
I know, I saw it. It was wonderful.
I just wanted to tell you that, like you said, she would meet somebody and take their name and address.
Yes.
Wherever she was, she did that from
That's brilliant.
1906 all the way on. By the time she was gone, she had 250,000 addresses in binders by alphabetical by what town she was in, because she would write to all of them
And tell them
before
she's
she was
coming.
coming. And so
She's
we have in the
brilliant.
movie, it's one of our favorite lines, before there
know.
was Facebook, there
Right.
was Tucker Book.
Tucker book. I love it.
But for me and for us as the authors of this and reading these scrapbooks, the fact that she wrote to all of these people, they wrote back to her, not postcards, but letters. And that's how we got to see America through the eyes of Americans from 1906 to 1966.
Wow.
And these stories were so heartwarming, and overwhelming love that they had for this woman came through these letters that we were gifted.
Not only that, but the real stories of her career from other actors who had retired started to come into the letters. And so we wrote a book about Sophie Tucker.
Well, I happen to have
yeah.
it right here.
Yes.
This is I Am Sophie Tucker.
Yes, and you notice it says a fictional memoir.
Yes.
Because
By Susan and Lloyd Ecker.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right. What happened was first we read her real autobiography, and then we started reading all the scrapbooks. And by the time we were done, we realized that her autobiography was really fiction.
Right.
And
Of course, she's somebody who created herself.
3 writers took a stab at it, as we found out through the research.
Wow.
And all because she wanted to do a movie. And
Did she ever do a movie?
No, never did. But
Wow.
we did, and we'll eventually do a couple of other things
Well,
too.
I want to talk about, I cannot wait to read this. It's full of mayhem and intrigue and murder and all kinds of.
Yes.
And I'm so honored that I have it signed by the authors. I am very honored. So this is going to be great summer reading for me. So let's talk about the show. You just closed
On Sunday.
Yes.
at Bucks County Playhouse. And Bucks County, for those of you that don't know, is an incubator for Broadway. And we're here in New York City. And what are your plans? And what are you?
Well, right now, there are 2 things that we need to go forward. We need another theater that's a little bit bigger than Bucks County.
A
and we need-
regional theater? Or?
It has to be. It's a theater that's on. That is another incubator theater that sends plays to Broadway.
So
this-
there's a process for
Yeah, there's
this.
usually 3 steps. In baseball, there's
What are they?
In baseball, there's AA minor leagues, and there's AAA minor leagues, and then you go to the big show.
I didn't know that.
Oh yes, so we're now.
So Broadway's like baseball.
Yes, Broadway's
Well,
like baseball.
everything's like
World is
baseball.
like baseball.
If you're a
Life is
baseball
like
fan.
baseball.
But we've had inquiries from London.
Wonderful.
And we also had inquiries here in the United States, in Washington and Hartford. We're investigating. We're going to end up at one of the actual theaters that do. See, Bucks County used to send shows to Broadway a long time ago, but Now the bigger venues, that's where it goes. And so we will end up with another theater next, and then hopefully in the next year, and we'll do our rewrites from what we learned from the last one, and we'll take some songs out and put some songs in, and then we'll go to that theater and watch out.
And watch out.
And watch out.
Then the third step is the West End or London. I mean, London,
Well, so the next
West
step
End or
could
Broadway.
be West End or London, and then from there come to Broadway.
Wow.
And the other thing we need is investors. We need people to invest in the show because to do a Broadway show costs. Are we allowed to say the figure? Like $16 million to do a Broadway show.
Yeah.
I don't have that in my pocket,
Right.
so we need to get some investors.
Quinn said we're going to get $8 million just for doing this.
Yes, $8 million.
So now we only
Yes.
need $8 million.
And what's your website? Where can they
Oh,
contact
that's
you?
right. SophieTucker.com.
SophieTucker.com.
There you go.
And that's, so that's the next process is getting another theater and getting some investors. And the rewriting, we're already, on that.
Yeah,
We've
that's
already
it.
Well, of
started
course,
that.
every night when you sit and you go, oh, I want to change that, or I want to change that.
That's what we did.
Does this
for
work?
a
Does
month.
that work? Yes.
Yes.
That's so
And
exciting.
that's
Yes.
the creative
What a
process. We love that.
privilege.
It's so much fun. It's
Oh my
so
God.
much fun.
We were in college together, and I was a stand-up for 5 years, and Susan was.
I was
she
a drama
an
major for a couple of years at
Oh,
Ithaca,
wow.
so it's in our blood.
But then we
Wonderful.
decided we wanted to be normal people and have a family.
And so we had a family. The normal part, I'm not sure we ever achieved.
No, you cannot take show business out of your
Of the blood.
Out of your blood.
No.
But here we are.
So tell me how you met.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Do you remember that story?
Back in 1973 when we were at Ithaca College, he was the big man on campus.
That's
Of
right.
course,
I was 6'4".
and you're still a big man.
Yes. Well, thank you.
And he got a concert to the school and he needed a date. That's where I come into the picture. He asks us on our first date. And we get to the concert. It's in the gym. I'm sitting in the front row. There's 5,000 people behind me. And the lights go down. And my date says, I'll be right back. Now I'm thinking, what kind of a date did I get myself into?
Yes.
Right? Next thing I see, the lights come up, and there he is on stage, and he said, okay, everybody, give a nice warm welcome to Miss Bette Midler.
Oh my God.
This is before she was on Johnny Carson, before she was Bette Midler as we know her. And because he was the big man on campus, we had dinner with her backstage, and her piano player, Barry Manilow.
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'll go on a second date. He's not such a schlub.
Yes.
But in that concert, we became acquainted with Sophie because Bette Midler used to do all of these
All the
Sophie,
Ernie jokes.
all those
Yeah.
Ernie Sophie Tucker jokes. So fast forward 35 years, we got married, we had 3 kids, and they went off to college. And he sold our business. And he comes home with the check, and he says, okay, we can do anything you want. What do you want to do
How
now?
exciting.
I said, first, I want to put that check into my checking account. And then I said, I really would love to have dinner with Bette Midler again, like we did on our first date. He said, no,
wonderful.
I have a better idea.
Yep. I said, let's find out who this Sophie is. Well, then I'll make a film about her because I knew something about that from college.
Right.
Then I'll write a book about her with you.
Thank you, dear.
And then we'll turn the book into a Broadway musical. Then we'll turn that into a Hollywood musical. Then we'll have so much research that we'll have 8 years worth for HBO. And after that, when we get to the 8th season, we'll hire Bette Midler to be older Sophie. She'll win an Emmy Award. And then
I love it.
we'll have dinner
You
with
have
Bette
it.
Midler again.
Then you have dinner with Bette.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
And then we started to make the documentary. And once we started to research, we realized that if we wanted to catch anybody who actually knew Sophie
And was alive.
and was alive,
You better
we would have
go
to go to
research them.
Brandeis and start backwards.
Right.
So we went up to Brandeis and we started with the 1966 and worked our way back. And that's when we found Carol Channing and Tony Bennett and Barbara Walters.
I love all the
and
pictures in your book.
Kay
It's
Ballard.
wonderful.
All of these people had interacted with her.
Right.
And those were the most fascinating interviews we had.
I'm
It was
sure.
amazing.
What do you want people to know about Sophie Tucker that would surprise you?
She knew
because-
kings, queens, every president. She knew J. Edgar Hoover, and she also knew Al Capone.
Right?
They
She's
wure
like
best
the
friends.
Kennedy,
Yes.
mistress
Like
of the Kennedy.
That's right. She knew
Right.
John Kennedy too, and his father. She knew his father.
But aside from that, people just loved her. Not just stars, but everyday people just loved her. That's what we want to portray to the rest of the world.
Wow. She did have some scandals in her life.
Yeah.
She got arrested a couple of times for doing the risque songs in the early teens. We have one of them in the play.
Yes.
And then, as a joke, she loved getting arrested. And in 19...
Well, you know, you get your picture all over the papers.
There's no such thing as bad press.
Right, just spell my name right.
Right.
So in 1962, New York City decided they were going to make all the cabaret performers have a card that registered, and she had to get fingerprinted, and like they fingerprinted all the cabaret people in
Why?
62. Money, politics, whatever. But she
Oh,
said,
that's right. I remember Billie Holiday had her
Yes.
card revoked.
Yes. And so
I remember that.
The funny part was that she said, aha, this is an opportunity. I refuse to do it. Come arrest me if you want me to do it. And so the cops, she knew the cops were coming, and she was at some hotel in New York doing the show. And she said to the cops, do you mind if I do the show first? And they said, yeah, go, because they loved her. And so then she got the cops involved in the act. These boys, they're going to take me away to prison, and we're going to have a party after this.
Yes.
And then she walked out of the hotel, and the police said, come on. She says, wait a minute, you got to handcuff me. I want to be handcuffed. And so she got handcuffed and walked out, and she had alerted the press, just like in our
Right,
show.
right.
And they were all there taking a picture, and she was on the front page of every New York
that's
City
great.
page
I
at
love
the
that.
age of 78
Wow, 78.
at that time.
Oh my God. So now, how do you keep the conversation going now that the play is not performing
on stage
on
anymore?
stage? I
So,
mean, that's hard. I
yes.
just finished doing an album, and I just finished a week in Cape May.
Yes.
And you know, and then it's like, okay, next theater.
Well, they're connected people that we have cultivated over the last 12 years of doing the Broadway part. And in the beginning of all this, we worked for 6 months with a guy named Stephen Schwartz.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he gave us notes, and then we wrote a letter to Susan Stroman, and she was kind enough to say, "You got something here, but I'm too busy. But here's who you should go see, because she's really an up-and-coming director and choreographer that you saw all the dancing
Yes.
with, named
So
Shay Sullivan."
Shay Sullivan, and
Yes.
she directed and choreographed.
Yes.
Your band is
Yes.
fabulous.
And then we hooked up with Harrison David Rivers, who is our co-writer.
Award-winning.
Award-winning, and he just brought such beautiful
Heart.
theatricality.
So
and
what
heart
was
to
your
our-
process in collaborating, working together as writers?
He started as our tutor. We had never written a theater piece, and he helped us do the original scripts and things like that. And then we just said to him, enough already.
It's time to be on the
Your
cover.
family,
You need to
it's
be-
time
you
to
need to
be.
be-
So we
Right.
put him, I said, we need a Harrison sandwich. If you look at the billing of our show, you'll see it says, written by Susan Ecker, Harrison David Rivers, and Lloyd Ecker.
So it's a sandwich.
It's
a
a Harrison
sandwich
sandwich.
approach.
And he's the most lovely person there is, and we couldn't be lucky
And
to.
and we just collaborate beautifully. I mean, everybody brings something to the page that enhances the script, and so it's a really beautiful collaboration.
Your casting was marvelous.
Yes.
Who was the casting director, and how did you find these people?
Well,
Because
the cast,
everyone, what I loved, and I have to say, it is an organically diverse cast. It's not a forced cast.
these people in this show are real people,
And they really did work together.
and they really did work together, and that's the beauty of the story. But the guy's name is Paul Hart. Then on top of that, Shay Sullivan.
Shay is a choreographer. She has a dance school. She knew all of these dancers, and so they came and they auditioned. But she knew what she was looking for.
We were talking earlier off camera about the difference between the Sophie Tucker jokes that are known from Bette Midler
Yes.
and the real Sophie Tucker jokes. Can you elaborate on that a little
Well,
bit?
in 1973, Bette Midler was a regular person.
She was a regular
Yes,
person?
she could sing. She had just done Fiddler on the Roof.
Right.
And then she decided she was going to have her own act. So
Right.
she was in the Continental Baths.
Right.
That's where she
With
started.
Barry.
With Barry Manilow.
Yes.
And another guy named Bruce Valanche.
Oh my God, I love Bruce.
And Bruce is in our movie. He's a friend of the project, too.
Yes.
And he said to her, why don't we make this character some old vaudeville character named Soph? And I'll write you all these filthy, dirty jokes, and we will become stars together.
I love it. And they
was
did.
And they
Brilliant.
did. That's when it started, 72,
So
73.
they just based the jokes and Bet's character off of Sophie Tucker, but
They modernized Sophie. You know,
Sophie
it's a
never used a
Right, she
four-letter
never-
word on stage.
Right.
Oh,
And-
wow.
But of course, Sophie in 1910.
Ernie, get off my back.
Yeah,
Right,
that's the one.
that one. But she couldn't have said that back in 1910. You know, it would have been arrested for real, not for
No,
publicity.
she couldn't.
So, but that was she did it. She pushed it to the limits of her era.
To get arrested
You know,
3
and-
times.
Right.
Well, but Bet does the whole Hawaiian thing.
That's
Yeah.
not Sophie Tucker at all.
But you have like a Hawaiian.
We
Yeah.
did have because she sang a song called Hula Loo, so it
Hula Loo.
became.
That's
it
a real
became-
Sophie Tucker
That's a real
song.
Sophie
Yeah,
Tucker
that
song.
was very cute. I
Yes,
loved it. It was very
yes.
funny and sexy
Yeah.
and playful.
Yeah,
Yes,
very playful
yes.
and a lot of tapping.
Yes, a lot of tapping. A lot of tapping.
great.
Yeah, our goal was to make a brand new old-timey musical.
Right.
All right.
That's
Right.
what we wanted to do.
And so what are the brand new elements of it that you think?
Well, the fact that we're bringing back all these old things that used to be staples on Broadway and aren't anymore.
Tap
We
dancing.
think there's a big hole in Broadway that needs to be filled. We think a lot of people are not coming anymore because even though they loved Broadway, they can't see what they want to see, which was tap dancing
Tap
and just
dancing
fun
and jokes and fun and that
enough
routine,
with the messages
that funny routine.
and the preaching and
Well, everything has a message nowadays, and ours we have a
It's,
message, but it's not the focus.
Right.
The focus is fun.
just to have a good
Focus
time.
is have a good time.
It's fun to see some of the two gentlemen, the
Oh, yes.
stand-up,
Yes, the Howard brothers.
and they were real people.
Yes,
The
they
Howard
were.
brothers was a real
Is
couple.
that their real act?
No, that we wrote. By
It was
I wrote.
very funny with the.
Yes, it is.
I don't want to spoil it,
No,
so it's very
an
funny.
homage to Who's on First.
Right.
And if anybody knows Abbott and Costello,
of course.
then they know that. And
Right.
so back in when my son was 8 or so, he found my tapes from college of my comedy, and he said, "Dad, I want to do that too." And so
my
I had done
goodness.
a lot stand-up alone, and I said, "Okay, let's try and write an act." And then when he got to be 13, we tried. I said, "You want to do something like Who's on First?" And he says, "Okay, let's do that." And I wrote that routine called Letter Numberitis. And
Letter number right itis. I love
Letter
it.
numberitis. Can only speak in letters and numbers. My son has
great.
an affliction. I'm sorry. It comes, it goes, and he can only speak in letters and numbers. And the only problem with
K.
the act, yeah, okay. The only problem was that I had only worked alone in my life, and when I tried to do it with him, he was great, but his partner was stinko.
Oh no!
talk to
And
him
he's
for
still not
weeks.
talking to me. Because we got through it, and we have it on tape, but it wasn't
He was
perfect.
so mad
Oh,
because
that's
he
funny.
would mess
Like
up the
you saw
lines.
it. Like you saw
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that was funny. It was nice because a lot of those vaudevillian acts are very hard to translate in today's time
Yes,
because they're so
impossible.
exposed. You're using your mind, your imagination.
God
you're
forbid.
not, and you don't have a lot of help from effects and things like that.
Right. Just
And the audience
Clever.
loved it.
Clever,
They
like the
Just
loved it.
clever.
honeymooners.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
when my string of Peloponnese.
Now you're talking to the choir.
Yeah, right. I love it. You know,
my
and they
God.
had no. It was just great writing and,
Lucy.
great acting.
And Lucy.
And Lucy.
And Lucy.
Yeah, wanting to be on stage. He called me Lucy through this whole process because I kept saying, I'll go on stage. If somebody's sick, I'll do it. Lucy.
Have you ever gone on?
Oh, not
No,
this version.
they were going to say the last day, the last show. They said, "Come on, you should come on stage. Just sit in the first, in the first scene when everybody's sitting around the restaurant eating." No.
That's great.
I know.
So, how old was Sophie Tucker when she transitioned?
To what?
When she died?
Oh,
When she
sorry.
died, sorry.
Oh.
She was at 79. She
Wow.
was 79, and she'd been in show business for 60 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
amazing. And does she have legacy?
Nobody, but the son never had children, so there's no grandchildren or anything. But there's a lot of nephews and nieces that we've met.
Yes, and
we've met them all when
and
we did
on
our
Sunday's
film.
show, we met a great nephew
Of
and
her-
his
of
wife
her
and
brother.
kids of her brother. It
Her
was
older
wonderful
brother.
because we had interviewed her brothers. We had interviewed Sophie's brothers. They were like 90 and 86 at
Oh,
the time.
marvelous.
Actually, it was his nephew. Phil was the
Phil
father.
was the brother.
And Henry
Sophie's
was
nephews, who were 90 and
Yeah.
86 at the
Yeah, we
time.
met
So
them.
this
It was
is
great day.
his
Told us
great
wonderful stories.
nephew of Sophie's, and so it was really nice to connect with an actual relative.
When I was doing my Rita Hayworth show in Palm Springs, and I had a really lovely run, and so many people that had worked with Rita came to the show, and it was great because they said, you know, you really captured the essence
Nice.
of who she was, not just the movie star. You did
do the hair?
Of course, I did the hair. But you know, like, because for me, Carter Inskeep, my writer, and we wanted to show the difference between Margarita Cancino, the girl who wants to be on stage,
Yeah.
but wants to be loved and is ambitious, but needs to be loved.
Sure.
And the manufactured Rita Hayworth, the siren, you know, I mean, the Sophie Tucker, would you say she was the same off stage as on stage?
No.
No, there are pictures of Sophie. On stage, she was elegant. We have pictures of her off stage, sitting around a table playing cards. She's got a cigarette hanging out of her mouth. Her hair is up in a turban. She's wearing a schmata.
Oh my
And
gosh,
this is
a schmata.
She's wearing a schmata, like this sundress, and she doesn't care what she looks like. There's no makeup,
Wow.
there's no glitz, there's no feathers and sequins. She just was herself. She was just relaxed, and she was not, and she was comfortable with her body and herself, but she wasn't the glitzy, I don't know, this
Star.
icon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
She was a
so
nice Jewish mother.
She was just,
Right,
yeah.
I know Fanny Bryce had she had her funny teeth and her singing, her torch song
Like
teeth.
teeth.
Yes, yes.
Right.
She was a character.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
these,
was.
They were
those
best
They were
ladies.
friends. Sophie
Oh, they were
and-
best
they
friends?
Were. There are
Best-
stories
yeah.
in the scrapbooks of the two of them as well.
Fanny was a
Oh.
little younger.
Yeah.
Wow.
And-
Wonderful
and
stories.
Sophie helped her start.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
wonderful to have,
Yeah.
you know. So again, let's give them your website. We're
Okay, so-
wrapping up, and I
so-
want them to know what you are looking for and what your plans are.
SophieTucker.com. There's all you have to know. And
Great.
write us and tell us your stories, and hopefully you want to get involved with us.
Or write us a check. That's okay too.
Right.
Yes.
Susan Lloyd, it is such a privilege to be here with you, and good luck. And I'm going to be following your journey, and I'll be on the ride with you.
There
All
we go.
right.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank
It's been
you.
a joy.
Thank you. I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage. We air every Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on mnn.org on Channel 4, the Culture Channel. Or you can sign up for my newsletter at quinnlemley.com, be part of my world. And we are on, Secrets of the Stage airs on my website, so you can definitely check us out there. Until next time, I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage.